It was at the height of my professional modeling career when my life took a very unexpected and drastic turn.
Renee, I'm going to ask you to make several movements of your face.
Okay.
I want you to hold each position until I tell you to release it.
Okay.
Ready?
Yep.
Move the corner of your mouth back towards your ear on just the left, like a smirk. And release. And now just on the right. So you can keep the left relaxed and just smirk on the right. Okay. It's not coming. Okay. Just tell the camera your name, a little bit about yourself, and what's actually brought you here.
Gosh. My name's Renee. I love life and poetry and words and people and animals, and I love studying health. I'm a very holistic person and a networker, artist and networker. I'm here to rehabilitate my muscles and to get back to where I was before.
All right, great.
I was literally paralyzed by my flaws. All of us have visible or invisible parts of ourselves that we feel shameful of, the things we don't talk about. Character flaws, physical flaws, fears, or addictions. What if there was a way to become more friendly with our flaws and maybe even flaunt them? This is the story of my journey from paralyzation to liberation. I am here to talk to you today about flaws. And I'm going to be sharing about my personal story and journey, but I just want to invite you from the very beginning to see my story just as a microcosm of what we are all going through as humans on this planet right now. I now believe the way that we choose to deal with our flaws will actually lead to a life of success, power, and health, or self-destruction, insecurity, and shame. The dictionary defines flaws as defects or blemishes. I am on a personal mission to shift this perception. So I hope you won't be mad at me for asking you this right now, but please be brave and just raise your hand if you guys have ever felt a flaw within yourself. Yes. Add to the list that awesome life people are honest, okay? Thank you so much for sharing that. And I really do believe that flaws are a part of human nature. And I want to share with you right now and call myself out right now in this present moment, because I'm experiencing what I have believed to be my biggest flaw and biggest fear for a very, very long time. And that is public speaking. This is actually only my 10th talk ever. The first time I was on a stage was just barely over a year ago. It took me almost 10 years to share my story. So I want to take you back to the beginning, at least for the sake of this talk. And I hope that I'm not the only one that has these really embarrassing 80s photos. So I'll just go ahead and put it out there. Yes, I was born in 1974. I did win Detention Queen in 8th grade for big hair. That is a true story. Got kicked out of Catholic schools as well, but that is a whole other talk. But I wanted to just give you a little bit of history about my family. This is my beautiful mother, Jane. So Jane's flaw is lack of self-belief. But Jane's strength is in helping other people to achieve their dreams. And this is my father, Jack, cuddling with my childhood cat, Knuckles. And Jack's biggest flaw is over-generosity and overspending. But Jack's greatest strength, he is one of the most loyal family men that I have ever met in my life. This is my younger sister, Lindsay. Lindsay's flaw is lack of self-confidence. Lindsay's strength is compassion and empathy. She's actually the one that's selected at her vet technician clinic for being there with the dogs while they transition. And get ready for this one. Ta-da! This is me in all of my Debbie Gibson glory at age 12. Is there anyone else that wore these hats? Like, okay, thank you. So this is where my modeling madness began. I had photos of all of the supermodels up on my bedroom walls. Looking back, I now realize that it's because the females in the modeling world were dominating their industry as entrepreneurs. But, at the time, I just wanted to be a model. So my parents were generous enough to send me to modeling school. So I went to this modeling school. I started getting jobs straight out of the gate, and I absolutely loved it. It was just this beautiful place for self-expression. Then I got back to my grade school, where it was not so pretty. There were really hurtful rumors circulating about me. Other kids in my class and even my friends were saying things like, "Oh my God, don't talk to Renee. She thinks that she's prettier than everyone else because now she's a model. She thinks that she's better than everyone else." I was very sensitive, and this really hurt my feelings. And it didn't help that I was constantly being made fun of because I was super skinny. And just the year prior to that, I had buck teeth. I had the headgear, the braces, the full deal. So the combination of all of those things made me subconsciously shut down. I decided at that point that it was not safe for me to be in my beauty or in my power in public. Hence, that is where the fear of being in front of people really started for me. But despite going through all of that turmoil, I did go on to climb the corporate ladder, and I do mean from a very young age. I started working full-time when I was 15. So by the time I was 21 and had graduated with straight A's, moved myself out to California, I was living an amazing lifestyle, and then boom, I had an aha moment, probably like many of you in this room. I followed the call of entrepreneurship. That's when I decided to get certified in NLP, hypnosis, massage therapy, neurolinguistics, nutrition. I just ran the full gamut, and I also started a daily meditation practice, which completely changed my life. But something that I learned about in the meditation practice was a word called intuition, and I know we're going to talk a lot about that over the course of the next few days. Embarrassingly, I had not even heard of the word intuition until this point in my life when I was 21. But hearing about that concept, I have to tell you, it really set me free because I realized I had been using that gift my whole life to help myself and to help other people heal. Now, I also embarked on a journaling practice at this point in time. And I did this practice religiously because to me, that's how I got to know my own inner truth and my own inner wisdom. So fast forward to about 7 years later. I was doing my daily journal practice, and I started getting some very cryptic and concerning messages. Things like, there is something really wrong with you. You are going to die. Now, imagine if you're writing in your journal and you look down at the piece of paper and in your own handwriting, you see the words, "You are going to die." I had no idea what to do. For a minute, I thought maybe I was depressed and, I just wasn't aware of it. But over the next few days, the messages kept coming, so I decided to go see doctors. Many months later, and many doctors later, I was labeled a hypochondriac. I'm still journaling. I'm still getting the messages. I'm checking in with my intuition. I'm getting so loudly and clearly, there is something really wrong with you. I had no symptoms of anything also, by the way. I finally got to the right doctor at the right time, and a specialty ordered MRI revealed what I think is everyone's worst nightmare. At least I can share with you that was my worst nightmare. I walked into the doctor's office by myself and was stood in front of the shiny light x-ray machine and saw my head with a huge brain tumor in it. This tumor was life-threatening. It was compressing my brainstem. I needed emergency surgery, and they discovered that this tumor had been growing for almost 15 years. So, I knew something was going on, but I had no idea that it was this. So as I stood there, my life really did flash before my eyes. I didn't know how I was going to make it through this process, and what I kept thinking about was the fact that I would have to call my parents and say, your daughter, who at this point in time I was under 30 years old, has to undergo one of the most dangerous forms of massive brain surgery. All in all, I went into the surgery feeling surrendered and grateful because, at the end of the day, at least I knew now what was going on with me. That is until I woke up almost 12 hours later. I was being wheeled down the dark corridor, and my friend looked down at me, and it was like this very loud echoing in my head. I heard him say, something went very wrong. And, I knew that this wasn't good. It was then revealed to me that there was less than a 1% chance of this happening, but my facial nerve had been entirely cut apart during the surgery. And in fact, the only thing that was holding the facial nerve together was the tumor itself, because the tumor had been there for so long. So what this meant for me is that I couldn't move my face at all on the right-hand side. It was 100% paralyzed. I couldn't smile. I couldn't chew food on that side. I couldn't blink. I couldn't close my eye. And I was given this eye patch because the eye doesn't produce moisture at all. I found this eye patch last year, and seeing it was a huge emotional trigger for me. It was the inspiration for finally writing this talk and sharing my story, because I realized that there was a power that was moving through me during that time in my life that I really need to share to help other people. So the doctor came into my hospital room several days after I was leaving the ICU, and he was so distraught. We had become really good friends by this time. And he said, Renee, I'm so sorry. You surrendered into the surgery. Your life had already changed. Now your life is completely changing again. You're not going to be able to model. You can't even move your face. You can't even smile. I forgot to mention, I had gone back to international professionally modeling as my main career at the time that I went into brain surgery. So this is one of those choice moments where things could have gone two different directions. Interestingly, I looked at him and said, I don't know how this is going to happen, but I am going to smile again. I am going to model again, and I am giving myself 6 months for my face to move again. Whew. The voice that came through, I'm still not so sure if it was mine or if it was that of a higher power, but I've got to tell you, it came through with such conviction that it convinced me, who was scared to death, that I was actually going to be able to do this. Now, the doctor's response was, Renee, I love your optimism and you're really feisty, so you're probably going to get through this, but I have to let you know, it's not actually medically possible that this nerve is just all of a sudden going to spontaneously grow itself back together again. And even in some far-fetched world, if that did happen, it would still take at least 18 months for your face to actually start moving again. Now, luckily, I had already started my path as a healer and in the healing arts. So being a good goal setter, I told him, thank you, and I'm going to set upon my healing journey now. This was an epic healing journey. I was now acclimating to a life being completely deaf in the right ear. I had lost my nerve of balance in the surgery, which means that I had to teach myself to walk all over again. Now I had to heal my face of this facial paralysis, and just to top it all off, I was recovering for 3 months after brain surgery, laying on people's sofas because we did not have the money for me to be in my own recovery center because all of the finances had gone on into the brain surgery because I didn't have insurance at the time that I got the diagnosis. So every single choice had to be entirely deliberate in my life at that time. And I'm not going to say that it was all kind of law of attraction, visualization, and prayer and meditation work, but that was instrumental in my personal healing process. But I stood in front of the mirror every single day. I did facial exercises. I willed my face to move. Nothing at all happened. I would cry myself to sleep often. I would wake up the next morning. I would just walk in to go to the bathroom. And I didn't even, want to look at the mirror, but I would still stand in front of the mirror every single day. And then the one fateful day, a teeny tiny spark came back. And I remember it was just right here. And it was so tiny that had I not been in front of the mirror every single day, there's no way that I ever would have noticed it. But I knew from there that I had this. So this is a photo of around the time that the spark started to come back, and then 2 months after that. So my facial nerve spontaneously did grow itself back together 60%. My doctors called me on my follow-up MRI and said, we don't even know what to say. On this particular type of MRI, we don't really even see facial nerves, but we see yours and it's growing back together. How did you do this? This is absolutely incredible. So I share this with you because this was an absolute miracle through the use of all kinds of different tools from mindset and belief. But I also share this because the physical transformation was just one part of my healing process. Because guess what? I was excited when I initially had this miraculous healing, but there was still 40% of the facial nerve that hadn't grown itself back, right? So even today, as I stand on stage right now, my face still does funky things. My eye will kind of roll to the back of my head. It's not because I'm annoyed at people. It's because there is a neurological injury that still exists there. So the majority of my conversations would look like this when I was in the outside world. Just hoping that people would focus on this 100% functioning side. We know when we are lying to ourselves. I was lying to myself that I wasn't embarrassed. I was lying to myself that I didn't require additional healing in order to feel like a whole person. So, what do we do in those times? I didn't want to accept this. I decided to challenge myself. The biggest challenge that I could think of was to go out and start sharing myself with small groups of people, and also on social media videos where I pulled my hair entirely back and I just exposed my flaw and started talking about it with people. And something very, very cool happened. I could see that people started accessing their own inner beauty and their own inner power through the sharing of my flaw. And that's why I now believe that I have been able to flip this facial flaw into my most unique ability and strength. And hopefully that's what you're seeing right now as I flip this flaw of public speaking. Because let me tell you, when you hide, you create more shame. That means that you are telling yourself that you are more and more unlovable. But when you share, you do allow for the light to shine through the shame. And I firmly believe that we can all become perfect through our flaws. To further imprint that, I just want to share a very quick story, and some of you may already know this, so bear with me if you've already heard this story before. But when the ancient Greeks used to make pottery, many of the pieces would come out with visible cracks and blemishes like you can see up here in the photo. So the sellers wanted to hide these visible defects because they thought that they would appear to be damaged and no one would want to buy them. So they would actually cover the flaws with wax. Interestingly, when the buyers would come in to purchase the pottery, they wanted to pay more for the pieces with visible flaws. The buyers saw these pieces as being authentic and as being real. Did you know that the word sincere actually stems from the Latin word insincere, meaning without wax? So maybe you can see what I'm getting at here. I just want to ask you, if you think about flaws through that lens of perception, could it be possible that flaws are actually the gateways to our sincerity? Could it be possible that flaws are the access points to recover your unshakable inner confidence? And could it be possible that flaws are the golden keys to actually unlocking your uniqueness? If you can answer yes to even one of those questions, my big question for you is, how can you begin today, right here today, to start expressing yourself with more sincerity in the world? I believe that that's the point when you get to actually celebrating yourself and others' wounds and all, that you flaunt your flaws. There is so much liberation, you guys, and so much freedom to be found in sharing your true colors with others, the lights and the shadows. So my message for you today is about you coming out of hiding. My message today is that you are not perfect in spite of your flaws, but actually because of them. And I want to tell you something else. You don't need to be pretty or good looking in order to be beautiful. And beauty is only skin deep, but radiance is eternal.
I now know that flaws are just projected fears. I used to create fear by comparing myself to others, to my younger past, and my not yet manifested future greatness. I have learned that if we feel internally imprisoned, no amount of money or outside praise will ever make us feel free. So shatter what no longer matters. Get into your glory. Share your story and your true colors. True success lives in how we perceive ourselves.